Hey there guys, and welcome to Naked Reality, a podcast all about stripping bare mental health. We're going to hear from people all over the world sharing their stories, their experiences and their journeys with what they've been through in their life. But now it's time to get naked with our next guest. During all of our episodes in this podcast, we do cover sensitive topics. So if you or anyone you know is suffering with anything that we discuss, please listen to the end of the episodes where we can find contact details for us or support lines to help you with what you are going through. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and we are back for another episode of Naked Reality, and it's a pleasure to welcome my good long-term friend Theo into the studio. Welcome, buddy.
Hello there. Thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure, and like I know this is going to be a good episode to vibe and share stories, man. Like me and Theo met a few years ago. It's been a while since we've seen each other. I think we said off air it's been about a year and a half since we've seen each other, but Theo was the beautiful man that gifted me my San Pedro ceremony for my bachelor party. So it's there's going to be some deep and interesting conversations to be had today, that's for sure. But obviously, man, like I know a little bit about your history and moving over here to Australia, and what you've done like with the human body in terms of your previous jobs and stuff like that. But from what I've known of you, you take a massive leap. So it's going to be incredible to go on that journey and really understand the whole reason and purpose that you've now moved into doing what you're doing, man. It's going to be cool.
Of course.
So, man, like obviously not being from Australia, it's something that we both have in common, being like moving over here and moving to a country. Like, how have you managed to fit in? Because it's Greece, right? You're from? Yeah. So
I'm from Greece. Yeah,
you've. It's obviously a very different culture. Like, I'm lucky, man, being English. The culture's not too different, but it's obviously a big shift moving from Greece.
Yeah.
I lived there, funnily enough, for a little while, but it's very different, right?
It's actually massive for me, because the thing that you don't know is that when I left Greece to move here to Australia, it's the first time that I actually left Greece.
Yeah, wow.
I've never been to any other country, like any other place. I've been everywhere in Greece. I've traveled a lot, like throughout Greece, but never been outside.
Yeah, wow. That's insane. That must have been like really, really difficult.
Oh.
Not just like I've had friends, man, that have been in Manchester for the entirety of their life and never left Manchester and never want to leave Manchester.
Yep.
And it's like I see them. They are like they're literally the epitome of what you would say a Mancunian was. And it's like I can't even imagine them coming to a place like Australia, let alone them going to somewhere like Spain or Greece, for example, where the culture is really different. So how did you find it like moving over here, man?
In the beginning, especially like when I was fresh off the boat, it was such a unique experience, especially being 29 years old and all I ever knew was Greece and the culture there. So to come here to Australia and experience like a culture that it's the complete opposite. Yeah. So in Greece, like it's really like a lot of freedom. Everybody does whatever they want. Like you don't really have like a lot of rules and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you come here to Australia, that everything is really structured. You have like a lot of rules and everything. So in the beginning, like for me, it took me like a good amount of time to actually adjust.
Yeah, like what sort of experience did you go through, man? Like I'm guessing like if you've never left Greece before and you've come over here, you've come over pretty much not knowing anyone, right?
Yeah, so the reason why I left Greece and I came here, first of all, was that for a long period of time, because I was suffering and I never felt actually Greece was my home, despite I come from a very good family. We're really close with my parents and my brother and stuff, but I never actually felt that I fitted in that. And I was always trying to understand why I had this unease inside of me and why I could not connect with the culture, with even religion, like the whole thing. And I couldn't understand it. I was really like I spent so much time being angry, and I will share with you later like a lot of the experiences that I had. But I was at the point that I had to do something and change my environment, because I knew if I stayed there I wouldn't grow. I would literally stay stuck for the rest of my life. So that was basically what led me to make that big decision. And basically the ticket for me to come here was my ex-wife that I met here in Greece.
Okay.
and she's Greek Australian, obviously. Like she was born in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and she lived in Greece for about 8 to 9 years, and I met her when she was there.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, like, yeah, we fell in love and we started having like a relationship and stuff, and yeah, one led to the other, and she had to move back to Australia.
Okay.
And I decided 1 year later to basically, leave everything that I knew to come and pursue that and see where it can lead me.
Yeah. I guess then having that relationship, it gave you the opportunity to think differently, to think that, that's okay, I've got this opportunity to head out of Greece and try and find something new for myself. I bet that was, it helped along the way, right? It helped having that out, so to speak.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely did.
So it's like, when you first got in, man, like, what did you notice, like, within your first few months being here that's like, oh my God, like, I've got to really adapt. Like, now I've got to not necessarily change who you are as a person, but you've got to, like, whoa, there's certain things that I would do in Greece that I can't do here, or things like that. What sort of did you find straight off?
First of all, a big part of my first, especially 3 months, was adjusting in the new household that I had to basically like live, because being in Greece for so many years, living with my father, my brother, and my mom for a significant amount of time. I actually left my family house, and I lived with another girl like for probably 4 or 5 years when I was in my early 20s. And I've experienced that too. But in general, like leaving all of my friends, everybody that I knew, for such a big amount of time, and coming here, and then I had to live with 3 women. Because I literally got straight to a house with my ex-wife, her daughter. So my ex-wife was actually 8 years older than me.
Yeah.
Her daughter, which was 12 years old at the time, and her best friend. So I actually moved in at her best friend's house, which is still one of my close friends.
Oh, that's good.
And first of all, I had to adjust to that, like living with 3 women.
That's hard. As what people don't know, I had Joel on a podcast a couple of episodes ago. Joel and Theo live together now, which is really cool. But as we said on that episode, we love you women. We're not bagging you out, but you can cause us some challenges from time to time.
No, 100%. But it was an interesting experience. Like, obviously I had to adjust to that in the beginning, and then because I have to spend, especially the first 2 months, literally going within and trying to understand, like, because I started having all these like thoughts and realizations about my life in Greece, and why I was angry all the time, why I felt like I didn't fit in for so long and stuff like that. So I actually started the process to understanding why I was feeling a certain way. So I spent a lot of time actually, like, in the house. I would go out and explore, like, in general, like, because I moved in Queensland when I left Greece, so I lived there for the first 3 years.
Oh yeah, cool.
So I went from Greece and that nature there to tropical environment and stuff, which is not my forte.
Funnily enough, that's exactly where I started from when I landed in Australia, man. I started out in Queensland, and it's that humidity is it's intense.
That's probably the thing that took me the longest amount of time to actually adjust to. Like, the humidity was killing me.
Yeah.
I'm someone that I thrive in cold and winter and everything. Like, I love it, but when you put me in a hot environment, like, I'm always struggling. So that was that. And then, like, after the first couple of months or 3 months, when I went, through obviously like a lot of internal stuff, and starting to trying to understand also how this country works and everything, and going more out there and meeting more people, and realizing how multicultural it is here compared to Greece, because Greece,
it's just Greeks.
It's just Greeks, Greeks and Christians. That's it. This is all you see. If you see something different, like it seems like like pretty weird.
Yeah.
So being here and seeing like people from all these different cultures and stuff like that, like I was really amazed in the beginning, like but something obviously that allowed me to grow a lot as a person, like especially like talking with so many people from other cultures, and especially for someone like me that I haven't traveled a lot, and I haven't been out of Greece, that helped me a lot in the process.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. There must have been a massive change, man. Like,
one extreme to the other.
I can't think, like, I was actually on cruise ships for many, many years before I decided to move to Australia, but it's like even the adjustment there was hard enough. Like, you know, Australia is very similar to England, and still the adjustment of, you know, being alone in a country that you don't really have much family. The only people that you do know, you know, is potentially like same. I was in a relationship, so there was the only people that I know, and it's like you feel alone.
Yep.
And it's not easy to go, oh yeah, I'm just going to change my environment and, you know, everything will be right. I mean, Australia, it's such a beautiful, warm country with, you know, fun, you know, Australians are painted as the most funny, welcoming people on earth. And it's, you know, I'm not saying that they're not, but it's tough, man. It's, you know, I heard a lot of stories from, you know, on the podcast. The last episode I did just yesterday, we were talking a lot about changing your environment and about it being a key to being able to change and shift. And it's massive, you know. Changing your environment does help, but, you know, there's a lot that comes with it, right?
Yep.
A lot that comes with it.
For me personally, like I'm really fortunate that I have such a high level of adaptability. Like I remember from a very young age, as soon as I left home, I got completely absorbed to the new environment that I was. I would not even call my parents to say how I am. If they didn't call me, I would not even respond at all. Yeah. So I'm someone that naturally I can adapt so easy to change in general, and I'm someone that seeks change.
Yeah.
So after I did this, I took this massive risk to leave Greece and come here. All my journey through Australia is literally starting all over again. Like I've done it so many times.
Yeah.
And I love the process, and I love literally like having that challenge.
That's good, man. Do you ever think it causes any instability in that, like having that constant like cycle sort of thing?
So it definitely does now. So being 37 now, I actually realize that I have to stop doing that and have a bit more stability in my life, because I was really, because of certain experiences in my life, it led me to consistently seek challenge and pain. And I couldn't understand that until I actually started my journey with, you know, with healing and trauma and all that stuff, like actually doing the inner work. Yeah. And just recently I realized, oh, okay, that starts to become like pretty difficult, like, you know, from now on. So I have to create more stability in my life, and I have to be a bit more, you know, stable with certain things. So it definitely does. Yeah, like, you know, after 7.5 years, almost 8 years of consistently pushing and changing, this is the time to...
The good thing though, man, is that you're obviously aware of it, you know, and you're aware of the process that you go through during this time, and it's I guess that's important. Like there's obviously a lot of people out there that, you know, I can speak for myself as well, that anger was a reset for me. Like when I was ever had a hard time, or I was going through something that I couldn't figure out, I would get angry, and then I would just literally bury myself. I'd cut everyone and everything out of my life. Not to the point where I would literally cut them out of my life, but at certain stages, I would. But it was like I would just sit in my room, in my house, like a house full of mates, sit in my room, be like a fucking hermit, and I would slowly start to allow myself to come out of my shell, slowly but surely. But it felt like I had control, which felt good. Mm-hmm. But it's like it wasn't until I realized the cycle of what I was doing that, you know, I was able to go, now I can change it. So it's good to have that level of awareness, so you can go, and it's, you know, just because you have a cycle and that you go through doesn't mean that you go, I've got to rip things up and make sure I've got no cycle now. No, you got to be gentle to yourself, right?
Yes.
You've got to be kind and calm and allow this cycle to progress a little bit, so you can start to understand where you are at when you're on these different things and cycles, and where you can start to make changes so that you can bring more calmness and peace to your life, right?
Yeah, 100% agree with you. Like for me, I struggle a lot with that, because I felt in Greece, because of the way I was, like I was really stuck. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life and everything. I didn't have like a mentor or a role model that could actually like help me and teach me how to grow in general, like how to develop myself. So I never had that. So when I came here, I had like this pressure of time, and I literally put myself in the position of I have to do everything fast and intense, and try to do as many things as possible, like learn as many things as I can, like, and I consistently like was pushing towards that.
Yeah.
So it was a process for me that, you know, because I was feeling that way, I was so harsh with myself. I didn't have any compassion at all. And literally that's what led me to consistently, like, you know, have all these unique experiences that I had and intensity with that way I was living.
Yeah. Do you, like, with all the work that you've done, do you understand, like, a bit more about where this all started from now, or?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So I had two experiences when I was a teenager. The first one was when I was 16 years of age. And I had this terrible car accident that I almost lost my life. So basically, I was sitting in the passenger seat, and my best friend was driving his father's car.
Okay.
Didn't have a license, nothing. We just took it.
Yeah.
We took it the previous night just to have some fun. And I was actually supposed to go home that day, but I didn't. So I stayed actually at his house. And I ended up getting into his car the next day also. We picked up the girlfriend that I had at that time, and she was sitting behind me in the car. And literally he was driving with 160 kilometers in a very narrow road next to a river.
Yeah.
And he lost the control in a very, very tight turn, and the car literally like went the opposite way, like the back of the car, and we were going straight to go inside the river, but he turned the car again, and we literally crashed with 140 kilometers in a warehouse that was literally like on the opposite side of the river, in a very thick wall, and the car almost split in half.
Whoa.
So the crash was so severe. I was not wearing seatbelt. The car didn't have like an airbag on the passenger seat. So basically I had nothing to hold me. And I put my left leg for resistance on the bottom, like as instincts. Yeah. And basically broke my femur in half. So I literally bent it from my femur, smashed my face on the dashboard, like my face was completely destroyed. I almost lost my eye, like broken teeth and everything. And my right hand got out of that window. So literally, like, I was lucky to be alive.
Yeah, man.
And when the whole accident happened, literally, like, I cannot recall. The last thing that I remember is literally getting inside the car. After that, I did not remember anything.
Yeah, wow.
So after that, like, the first time that I opened my eyes and I realized basically, like, what happened was probably 4 hours later when they took me to the first hospital that they took me first, because then they had to transfer me to the big one of the city. And I remember opening my eyes. I was inside like the elevator of the hospital, and I opened my eyes and I see on top of me 3 doctors and my dad. And as soon as I look at him, I get this feeling of something really bad has happened. And I tried to move my left leg, my thigh, and literally like I heard the bones basically crashing, and I literally collapsed. Like I literally fainted. That was the first time that I actually realized what has happened to me. Yeah, wow. And that was 16 years of age.
That's pretty intense, man. I guess like from that, you know, like without going into the whole energy sort of thing behind it, it's like it's gonna be pretty traumatic to go through that experience, man.
It was obviously at that time, and especially because it was like literally the 90s and stuff like that, so 21 years ago, like 2000 actually. And back then nobody was talking about PTSD. Nobody, like, we didn't have that level of education back then and stuff like that. So I didn't even know what was happening to me. So after even like I got out of the hospital and everything, you know, I had to have the crutches for so long. Like there was another interesting experience that I had, like probably for the first 3 to 4 weeks after the accident, after I got out from the hospital, after the surgery. So my surgeon told me I didn't have to hire like a physiotherapist to actually help me, because my leg had complete ankylosis, so I could not basically like extend my knee, and my whole muscles have atrophied, so I literally had to rebuild my leg from scratch. Wow. And he told me, don't hire a physiotherapist, I will come to your house like twice a week and I will help you with that. So basically he was coming just to get like a bit more money from my dad. He will put me on a table and basically like push my leg to get a better range of motion, and he basically told me, this is what you have to do for ongoing for how many weeks. So I literally had to fix my leg by myself. he came like 3-4 times, and consistently every single day I will wake up, I will take myself to that table or somewhere else and try to do like screaming from the pain and crying and stuff, trying to basically get the range of motion by myself.
Jesus.
So literally like that was like another pretty intense experience.
Yeah.
And he told me also, because I always had that knowing within that I can achieve everything, and I always like, I was really very, very mentally strong, and I always like pushed beyond pain. Like I fixed my leg like pretty fast, and I end up actually playing in after 3 months a water polo tournament as a 16-year-old.
Whoa.
And I was the leader of my team also, so I had to basically go, and I barely could move my leg.
So you're basically swimming with one leg.
Yeah, and actually the opponents knew also like about my pain, because I had actually still scars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they would kick me consistently there.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, it was such a crazy experience.
How are things after that, man? Like, obviously, you know, the physio and that sort of things aside, that's, you know, it's challenging enough. It's something I've also been through. It's not pleasurable, you know, that, you know, learning how to use your leg again. Like, obviously, you know, as you said, there was no such thing as, you know, there was, but nobody really identified what PTSD was like back then. So what was that journey like for you after the crash?
So without basically like understanding the change that occurred in my personality and everything, and this is after conversations that I had with my mother, even as long as I'm here in Australia, because I started becoming more aware of that trauma and what I've experienced back then and what impact it had on my life. She actually expressed with me that my whole personality was completely different. Like, she would look at me in the eyes and she would see emptiness. And imagine, like, when after like literally almost 16, 17 years, hearing your own mom that you love so much telling you that, but you never had the ability to or the awareness to understand, you know, what happened. And, you know, it made me feel like really sad. And I remember also, like, there was certain changes. Like, I used to love, for example, dancing and moving, and I was really connected with music and all the stuff before the accident. After the accident, complete opposite. I almost lost my flow and, like, you know, like that personality trait that I had, like, that I actually like wanted to move and dance. Like, I completely lost it. And I became aware of that like way later on, like as long as I'm here.
Yeah. So there's a lot about what they say about the army, hey? Like, when people go to war and things, it's like the PTSD that they get. It's almost like the soul's been taken away. Like, the whole energy that was inside the body is just completely just gone.
Yeah. You completely lose like your aliveness. Like, you just feel a bit empty. And the thing is also with me, because I was really so hyperactive and intense in general as a kid and as a character and stuff, I always had like this crazy energy, and obviously like I was with sports, like an athlete and all the stuff. But for me it came out as anger. Like, I had so much anger, and I lived with this like for probably like 15 years. Yeah, shit. And I couldn't escape from that at all. Like that, because of the shock that my nervous system absorbed from the crash. You know, like, I was carrying that energy like inside of me for so long, and literally like I couldn't deal with it. Like, it was always like I was so aggressive. Like, I would go to the gym, and like people couldn't even look at me because I was so angry, and I was going like literally attacking the weights and stuff, or even the way I was playing sports and everything. It was always like so aggressive.
Were you angry in any like particular direction? Like, was there any way that your anger was sort of like you felt angry about something, or was it just like a general sense of just? It
was my state of being. Literally, like I was just like that. So I went from being such a happy kid, and always like really, obviously like I'm really empathetic and stuff, and I never lost that. But I went from being like a really happy kid to having all these ups and downs. Like, I would always be like either extreme, like really aggressive, or I would go back to my baseline basically and be that happy person. But it wouldn't come out like very, very often.
How did that affect, like, you know, friendships and relationships with, obviously, you know, people that you knew around that time, before the accident. How did that change with that?
So started after that, literally, despite I was always someone that I was surrounded by, like, I always had a lot of friends, and wherever I went, like, I had the ability to become friends with people very fast. I never lost that, but the thing is, I wouldn't keep people like really close to me. So I became almost like a lone wolf after that, because of the way I was feeling, like, consistently, like every single day. I was almost like isolating myself. So that's a thing. I would support my friends and stuff like that. I would always be there for them whenever they need me. I will be still, like, really playful and engaged in sports and, like, activities like having fun and stuff. But I would always, like, be also so isolated, and I would never ask for support. I would never, even from my own family. My mom tried for so long to actually get me to see a psychologist, a friend that she had, and I never accepted it.
Do you think that's just because, with that lone wolf mentality that it's like, this is something I've got to figure out for myself? Is that sort of the thought set that the mindset that you had at that time? Yes.
And I'm still actually, because obviously I'm aware of it now, but I'm still struggling to actually escape from that.
Well, yeah, man. Like, if you think about, like, car accidents and things like that, and any explosions of any sort, and I guess you could say the same thing in the military, man, is like, there's a lot of friggin' energy being shoved in one direction in a very, very, very short space in time. Whether you believe in this energy and this sort of thing or not, it's like you got to think, even with the most logical sense, that's going to have some sort of effect, like on the person internal, like emotionally. Like, emotion is just energy at the end of the day, right? So it's like it's going to have a massive effect. So you can start to understand why, like, this massive crash and impact has made such a change to you. Like, when did you first start to realize that, for yourself, that it's like, okay, well, you obviously got other people saying this, and you should go and do this, you should go and do that. But when did you really first start to go, oh fuck, maybe this is something more that I want to understand?
The thing is, I actually had 2 years after that, I had another experience.
Okay.
So, another near-death experience also, like 2 years afterwards. And obviously left me with another post-traumatic stress disorder. And this massive brawl happened. So there were some people, like, in my city, because, like, Greece is also obviously like UK, as you know, like, really rough, and, like, gangs everywhere, and, like, mafia, whatever you want to call it and stuff. And the masculinity you get exposed to, like, in our countries and stuff, it's pretty toxic. I would use that word. And like, basically there was these people that they were annoying my brother and stuff, and I received a phone call from my brother, one day, these people are calling me, I don't know what to do. And I was with my cousin at that time, like, spending some time together, and I end up calling them, and basically we arranged a meeting in a square close to my house and stuff. But I never knew what would actually happen that night, so I actually got betrayed. So one of my best friends, he knew these people, which I didn't even know, and he actually called them, and he told them basically that I was gonna, bust them and stuff. And basically 40 people arrived that night at the square.
Jesus.
It was basically, I didn't even know what was happening. And, like, it was 11 o'clock at night, and 5 minutes later I see 3 cars with tinted windows arriving, all these massive guys, like, coming out, and another 15 like bikes and scooters and stuff with 2 or 3 people like on top. And I got surrounded. Basically, they didn't even know how I looked, and I had like 20-25 people surrounding me. Everybody that was with me completely disappeared. So it was the first time in my life that I actually experienced that, like, loneliness, that I don't have anyone to back me up and stuff. And like, I basically like got hit. I had one guy in front of me that I was trying to protect, like, my face and stuff that I was holding, and people were hitting me behind my back with chains, with, like, with like metallic bars and all those things, punching me and everything. So I tried to protect myself, and basically, like I literally felt that I was gonna die. Like it was a crazy experience. I got actually stabbed also with a knife, which I didn't realize at the point because of the adrenaline rush and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, like 2 years later from experiencing the car accident and having like that massive traumatic experience, like this thing happened to me again.
Bloody hell. That's mad. I mean, do you think that, we're only speaking, we don't really know, but it's, do you think that the anger from the PTSD and stuff put you in that place? Like looking back at it, would you think that the Theo from before the car crash would have put himself in that same environment?
I definitely wouldn't. Yeah, because my dad, he was always like really protective. Obviously, as a kid, all of us, like at some point we had fights and stuff like that. But I wasn't someone that was seeking that. But obviously, after the accident, because of my aggression and everything, like obviously that changed. So
it's almost like I
attracted it.
Match made.
Yeah. It was a chemical cocktail that was happening. That
I think that's an important thing to realize though, about emotions and things like that. If you are sat in any particular emotion, it's pretty much where you will live.
Yep.
If you live in anger, you will attract anger, and you will seek anger, and you will seek more things that entice the rage, or build this, or sort of solidify this idea that the world is angry and I can be angry in it, and this is how I fit in. And the good thing to realize about that, however traumatic that was back in when you were going through those things, looking back now, it gives you that opportunity to know, well, if that happens with anger, it can also happen with love, happiness and joy, and contentment and stuff like that. So I suppose that's a kind of a not a great lesson to learn. Not the best way to learn it, but a really good lesson to be able to take from it.
Yes, definitely. And like throughout my life, that's how I learned, through pain. Just recently, I actually trying to shift and rewiring my brain, because consistently I seek that just because of those experiences. So yeah, it's
yeah, man, that's
emotions is literally energy in motion, and I lived in anger.
Yeah.
So that was my my blueprint, basically. Like
that's how you moved.
That's it.
Yeah, wow, man. So that was that's 16 car crash, 18 like pretty much beaten to death.
Almost.
Yeah, but closest to. Like, how the hell did you approach life after that, man? Because that's two massive things in such a short space of time. It almost gives the body and the mind like a blueprint to go, well, this is what life is.
Yes.
Welcome to adulthood, buddy. And it's just like,
it was a rude awakening.
Yeah, I bet, man. So how do you move on from that, man? I can't I've not had that. Everyone has a certain level of PTSD with things that they experience, but not to the point where you would say that I have PTSD as as a something I'm working through, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
How do you deal with that sort of thing moving from there, man? What was life like after that?
So for me, I basically because we all of us at some point in our lives we start having addictive behavior, and for me it was mostly I started having addiction to basically pain. That was my thing, consistently every single day inflict pain to myself through training, through getting actually doing things that I don't enjoy at all. Anything that could be painful for myself, I seeked it consistently. I was addicted to pain.
Yeah, wow.
Consistently, I was trying to beat myself up all the time for a long period of time. And then the other thing was sex. So I had addiction to sex and pornography. So literally for probably 10 years, that was me. So I had those addictive behaviors that I couldn't even escape from, and basically I was trying to give to myself as much pain as possible. What
did that feel like going through that, man? Were did you ever have like any moments of clarity, like asking yourself the question, like, how do I get out of this, or how do I move past this, or because obviously being in that state, man, it's if you're constantly searching for pain and you're constantly living in this space, you're always looking for this. But is there any times where you were like, I want change, I want something different, I want there must be another way?
So it was really unconscious for me, like what was happening for a long period of time. So I wasn't aware of how I was behaving and everything. And the reason being is because I never allowed anyone to support me. So even when people were trying to tell me things, I would shut them off completely, and I would be really defensive with it. So I would deflect it straight away. So I never actually allowed anyone to support me in that journey. So I can get obviously like some new ideas or something how to initiate that change. And it wasn't after I actually went to the military, because in Greece obviously like you have to do a bit of that. That was quite an experience. So
like, 1-2 years military service,
it always changing and stuff. Like when I went when I was close to 25 years old, I did 1 year. So that gave me literally a whole year to reflect on what was happening in my life and who I was and how I was behaving and everything. So taking that time off from who I was until then, and I was in a relationship also back then and stuff like that, so I was really absorbed into that. So like that was my environment, and basically taking that time off and actually having a lot of time during the nights, or even when you guard the door of the compound and stuff like that, you have so much time to think. And this is basically when I started actually like making different thoughts and reflecting upon everything, and started actually like accepting that something needs to change.
Yeah, man. I suppose the army was like a little bit of a blessing in disguise. That military service. So, did you find that rage and anger was? Did it feel like you fit into the army in having that there, or did it make things tougher?
So, because of the way I grew up, because I was really disciplined, because of sports and all that stuff, and the way my dad actually like the things, some of the things that I got from my dad was actually like discipline and in the way I live and everything. And if I decided to do something, like I would be really disciplined with it. So the things that most guys get, the benefits that they get from going to the military, especially when you are young, discipline and all those things, like it wasn't a thing for me. So I already had those lessons. But for me it was mostly actually interacting with some older people, because I remember like some specific characters that I connected like really deeply with there, and they were really like intelligent, and obviously they've done like a lot of things in their lives and everything. So I started getting a bit more, allow myself to get a bit more guidance and everything. So I allowed actually people for the first time to get in. And like I still had like a lot of outbursts of aggression, like of anger, like through the military, which sometimes got me into trouble. But as the time was passing and stuff like that, going closer to going out, I found myself progressively actually like getting a bit calmer and accepting certain things. Definitely.
That's good, man. I suppose like one thing that is always intrigued me, like I never like one of the people I don't really say that I would ever like to redo my life, because I'm I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't have the experiences I had, obviously. But if there's ever those moments, I think that's something that I wish that I would have had the opportunity to do, was try out the military, because you see it in movies especially, and you talk to people that have been in the military. One of the beautiful things about it is, and I don't mean to be sexist in any way, but it's the brotherhood that you create from it, and that you really learn to bond with people and create strong units with people, and that must be so supportive, going through PTSD and being able to realize that even though I'm experiencing this, I can still connect to people and I can still have this brotherhood. So it's almost like there's yeah, there's a hope. You know, I've got
Yes.
I've got a hope of something different.
Yes, actually, now that you say that, it was the first time in my life that I got into an environment that I was with so many people from different regions of Greece,
Mm.
and I started connecting with people that they have like a completely different way of thinking, even the way they talk, because like every part of Greece, like we have a
Different accent.
different accent and everything, and I couldn't escape so much and isolate myself so much, so I was consistently surrounded from essentially my brothers for a certain amount of time,
Mm.
and I got actually the sense of brotherhood for the first time, as you say, when I was inside the military.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
That's a big realization for me, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
I haven't.
You're welcome, man.
Thank you so much. I haven't thought of that.
Yeah.
You know.
But I guess, man, it's like it's good to have these realizations, and to understand that this is all part of the journey, man. Like, what a blessing! Like something that I guess I've had Matt Bruce, who's been on. He was in the military for many years, and his PTSD came from the military, and I suppose there's a big negative view from a lot of people on what the military really is, and looking at that, but you can start to see that the relationships that you get created, you see that, since military service has been taken away, like mandatory military service has been taken away, you can see there's a big change in the dynamic of how we interact as people, especially men.
Yep.
Like back when military service was a thing that you had to do regardless, it was you got this strong brotherhood where there was trust and relationships being built. Yeah, there was still that toxic environment to it, but there was still the brotherhood there. Whereas today's society is like that toxic thing has still stayed, but there's no brotherhood. There's that connection and that way to connect as men has sort of disappeared in the world, and it's why, and I include myself in this conversation, is that we struggle as a man to connect with other men, especially if you have issues around like parents or things like that, or problems as with a male role model growing up, I suppose, right?
Yep.
And it's I'm not saying that everyone should go to the army, but it's good as for any parents that are listening out there to know that these situations and these things it can create and teach a lot, as as much as there is negativity to certain aspects of the military and things like that. It can give a lot to a young man. It's like one of the other guys that I had on the podcast, Corey, he works with rites of passage, and after having a chat to him, it's I realized that's something I never had as a boy. There was no rite of passage for me. There was nothing, because I had no dad. There's no way for me to get it. And it's like having that brotherhood, whether it's military or a strong
sports teams, like
sports, massive. It's a massive part for a young boy. It's huge. It teaches them what strong male friendships and relationships are all about. And it's I guess you were really, really fortunate to have
experience
that. At the time when you're going through PTSD.
Yeah.
So
100%. I had it like now that I'm like I'm going back into my life and everything. I think most of my life I actually had it, because I was always involved from a very young age with sports, and I played also like team sports and stuff like that. So I was always I always had that sense of brotherhood. Always.
Did you find after the accident that was missing, so to speak, or you viewed it in a different way?
The only thing that changed for me, it was basically that like I wasn't allowing people in. So I was part of different brotherhoods like through my whole 20s in general, but I just wasn't allowing anyone, like I wasn't showing what was happening inside of me. I would always show people this persona, like this guy that is really like happy and like intense in a lot of different ways and stuff like that, but I would never show what was really happening, and I never seeked support. So I was there for all of my friends, like from the groups of people that I was hanging out through my 20s, but I never allowed anyone in. I was always isolated.
Yeah, man, that's hard.
It is hard.
That must have been a real tough time in life.
Yep.
Like, to walk through a world full of people and feel like, even that so many people, like especially family, friends and things like that, but still feeling alone like that. It's you can see why it's a struggle, man. It's a struggle for many people in this sort of a situation. And I think it's, obviously don't beat yourself up if you are in these sorts of situations, but it's definitely a sign. And I guess the good thing about having a conversation like this is that, if you're starting to feel these things of alone, it's like, well, don't wait until things get out of hand to try and seek help or to seek other things, but to realize this is a sign and go, okay, well, maybe I can start to try and figure out why. It doesn't mean you have to go and register yourself on the mental health list or anything like that, or commit yourself to anything, but just to do a little bit of research and understanding, why these things are the way they are, and then it gives you the opportunity to change, right? Yeah.
I did all this research for the past 4 years, and now I actually know like where this whole thing stems from, and it started from my dad. Yeah, well. Because my dad, like his communication style, it was basically, as soon as we have a disagreement or I did something that he didn't agree with, he would always like
pull the dad card.
Go on his corner. He would not talk to me for weeks. Yeah. And then I had my mother and my grandmother, basically his mom, trying to basically bring us back together. So that was the level of communication and the way to deal with things I was shown from my own dad. And because he was the figure that I idolized all my life, like I never had role models, like I never idolized like like I never had posters of like celebrities or singers and sports and athletes and all that stuff. I never did that. My dad was my role model. Yeah. And because of that, like I basically like inherited everything that I could see. Yeah. So that's it started from that. So I like, because the way he dealt with me, this is the thing that I was doing also with my support group, with my friends. Like whenever was something happening, I would literally go in my corner, isolate myself, and just go on this massive like run, spend so many hours with myself inside my head, just trying to like basically fix everything. So you can understand how how challenging that is.
Yeah, man. And I guess this is only something that I've experienced through talking to many people like yourself and things like this, that we can often find that regardless of these massive incidents, like a lot of the ways we act now as adults, it stems from early childhood and our relationship with parents and peers around that time. And it's an important thing not to discredit, like not just because everybody else is, that's the way everyone else is. Yep. It's like, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be that way. Yeah, you're right. But it's good in this process through, suffering through trauma and things like that, to just try and keep an as open mind as possible and realize that, there's a potential for anything to have caused a trigger to, start the process into why you feel, think and act the way you do now.
Yep.
So, okay, well, you're out of the military. Like, what sort of happened for you after that?
So basically, coming out, like, because the way I saw it, like I lost 1 year of my life. That's what a lot of us, when we come out, this is basically like our first response. I lost a whole year. I could have done this, I could have done that, and like the typical stories. But like obviously, like I came out, had no money, had to basically rebuild my life again, like and especially when you do it mid-20s instead of actually doing it as soon as you get out of school, it has an impact on your life, because you have to lose a whole year of your 20s of actually doing something productive, creating a business or something like that. So I had to start from scratch. So that gave me again the opportunity to sit deeply within myself and ask the questions. Okay, what do I want to do in my life? What is one thing that I love? Like, obviously start asking all those questions so I can figure it out. What's my next step? And basically, like straight away after that, I decided to study physiotherapy. So this is where I was like just turned basically 25, and this is when I actually like started my course in physiotherapy, because always like from a young kid I was really fascinated with the human body and what it can do. Be an athlete for most of my. I actually even played the professional water polo for a year. Like I managed to. That was one of my achievements as an athlete. And because of that, like I was really fascinated about how the human body works. So that led me to this path.
Yeah, nice. I guess that did the I guess studying and the learning about something passionate obviously gave you a way to channel a little bit of that anger away from like physical outbursts into something intellectual, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
So that was that kind of calming for you?
It was really calming, and because I hated school as a young kid, as a lot of us, like I literally never saw the point of school, like never. And especially in Greece, the way the whole education system is actually structured, it's so stressful for the kids. Like you have subjects upon subjects, like compared to Australia. Now that I see how things work here. It's like you have to do probably quadruple that work that you have to do here as a kid in school, like with tests and like way more subjects. Like most kids like in Greece, they actually do tutoring to manage actually to deal with with the pressure and like the demand that you have from school and stuff. So because I had that example, like for me, always I was so resistant on studying and like even getting books that for subjects that I actually like enjoyed. So I was always resistant to to learning that way. So it was the first time in my life that I got the opportunity to study something that I'm actually interested in and I'm passionate, and that gave me an avenue basically to connect first of all with what's important to me and my gifts. This is the first time that I actually realized, I actually have a gift. Like the things that I can do with my hands and like the way I understand the human body. Like I had this inner wisdom, like almost like that I knew from very early on. And that allowed me to basically like explore my gifts.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I guess that definitely would give you a lot of peace and a lot of like inner joy to be able to go, there's a way out of this. There's something different. And was that, do you think, like one of the big catalysts for creating some real change for yourself?
Yes, definitely. Because the way the next couple of years after the military basically like were for me. I was studying at the same time. I had to have a job, obviously, to pay for my tuition and all the stuff and support myself. And I was working as a waiter during that process, and I was earning a decent amount of money for the way Greece is. What I thought it was decent for back then. And like I had like a really good structure. Like I had my studies and practicing also at the same time, which I loved it. Like I'm a person that I always love. I'm not so much theoretical, and I love practicing straight away. So I had that, and working at the same time. So it put me in a way of living that my anger problem was a bit more controlled. So because for a long period of time, I actually would use my weekends to go and watch my brother playing like soccer, and I will literally deliberately will go every Saturday or Sunday just to have fights at just go and swear at the referee or the fans of the other team and start fights. Literally I would go every single weekend just to basically like let my anger come out there. So now, because I had all these things that I cared about, and I had like very good structure, and I had a group of people that we have like common interests and everything, and we can discuss like and even grow together. That put me in a position that that was way different for me.
That's good, man. It's like, I suppose that the realization and the lesson from that is that if you can find a group of people that you feel safe and secure with, and you find a good common bond, then it's finding that again. You found that brotherhood again. It seems like it's a recurring pattern of what's helped you. I don't want to use the word survive, but it's it's definitely helped you, you know, create that thing where it's like, okay, I'm just that one step above the lone wolf now. You know, I've got a place where I can have this common unity between, you know, peers, or not necessarily have to be friends, but you know, it gives you that thing. It's like, yes, there's more to life than just this me anger kind of thing.
Definitely.
Did you find though that obviously now you found this passion and the anger's still there? Did you find that it became harder to keep the anger down, or did you find that the work that you were doing was like almost like a channel for the anger as well?
It really, actually, I believe like from that point that I actually like had that change in my life, and like I started my like studying and everything. I think that I just narrowed it down, and I was only using my anger in the gym. That's it. Like the gym was my outlet to express that, and that never stopped.
Yeah.
So I was letting everything come out there, but then like in my all the other activities and even in my relationships and stuff like that, it was not coming out so often. So I wasn't so reactive and, you know, like aggressive towards the people that I had close in my life.
Yeah, I think that's a massive importance, man. Like, you know, I guess there's a lot of people out there that will have sort of outlets that aren't so healthy. You know, it gives you a way to channel and to release that anger so that, you know, you can not let it come out into, you know, causing things like domestic violence or, you know, assault.
Of course.
Like common assault on a regular basis, because it's when you're full of anger, you just want to, it's a physical, you just want to get physical.
Yep.
That's it, isn't it? It's just, you know, you want to release that anger, and the only way you know how to do it is through physical things. So the gym obviously being a fantastic way, not some great ways though, like fighting and, you know, I guess crime to a degree. I guess alcoholism numbs it, drugs numbs it, but, you know, I guess you made some real healthy choices. But
it was, now that you say that, it was actually the gym and women. That were my two things.
Yeah.
You know.
But I like something I listened to that I think it was Jordan Peterson. No, it wasn't. It was Eckhart Tolle. Maybe you referenced Jordan Peterson. Anyway, he's saying this is like it's a pattern that exists in nature. You look in every animal, like every animal has anger. It's just every animal, if you watch them close enough, when they have this anger, they've got a way of releasing it. So he talks about ducks. And like how ducks, when they fight for whatever reason, whether it's a dominance thing, whether it's over a woman, whether it's a territorial thing, whatever, is they will go beak to beak, they will go at each other, they will do whatever they need to do, and then once the fight is over, this is a really important part to notice, is the ducks will go their own separate ways, but the very, very first thing that they do before they do anything is they have like this almost insane fit for just a few seconds where they will flap the wings, they will shake the necks, they will do everything. And what it's believed is that this is the way that the ducks, for example, in this story, is this is how they release this negative energy in their body that's been built up from this fight.
Yes.
So I guess this is in terms like, you know, this is why people who are generally, you know, you feeling angry, why the gym is such a great outlet. Obviously we'll talk about it a little bit more later on about the negative sides to it, but it's massive. Like it gives you that physical release because it's nature. That's nature. You can't get away from that, right?
Yep.
So it's
completely agree.
Yeah, it's the other thing, man. Like I like that you brought up women, is that this is something that, you know, even though, you know, I don't relate to myself as having PTSD, is, you know, it's a channel that I went down. It's relationships and sex especially is I don't know whether beautiful is the right word, but in terms of like the path that it creates, it's almost like a beautiful channel to, again, unleash this aggression, because it's you're able to exert dominance. You're able to exert all these traits that anger brings with it.
Yep.
And especially in the bedroom, man, like, fuck, man. I remember, like, this is something I've only really come to terms with recently, is like man, the shit that I used to do in the bedroom, man, like fucking, I got to a little bit of a BDSM stage, man, and it's like, but this is it. It's like, this is where the mind goes, you know. It starts off as something simple and something small, but you know, it just needs to get darker and darker sometimes, and especially, you know, obviously because sex involves another person, you know, it's you always have that little bit of, you know, ooh, should I push the boundaries and see if I can go further and further with that person? Like, no, maybe, yes, no, maybe. But when it comes down to pornography, there's no fucking boundaries, because it's just you, your phone, box of tissues, and your right hand.
That's it.
So how does that did you find that for you, man, like with the whole relationship to sex and pornography?
Oh, for me, like, I used both, like to basically like release that energy, like especially with women. Like, I used to pride myself, like, basically for my dominance and stuff, that I could never get dominated. Like, that was my thing.
Yeah.
You know, like like I had this thing, like I had to go with as many women as possible and just dominate and release that aggression. And then with pornography, because, you know, it's so difficult to not actually get addicted. Like, it's so addictive. Like, it had such a massive impact on myself, to the point that I would just watch it for the sake of it. I didn't even use it as a way to actually self-pleasure and stuff. I just wanted to see more intense things. That was my addiction, and that's how I was using it. And then basically I would try to practice it with any woman that I had in my life at the moment. So that was it for me. Like, all my aggressive energy, like, it had to get there.
How did you find, like, obviously, you know, if you're going through a lot of different sexual partners and things like that, how did you find approaching somebody with this, like, this new thing that you wanted to try? How did that go? It can't have been easy, man.
Like, the thing is, for me, it was probably the only thing that I could communicate at that point, like, pretty openly and stuff like that. And I was fortunate that the sexual partners that I had, they were pretty, like, open with trying different things. But a lot of the times, because I'm someone that I love breaking the boundaries a lot, like, I would, you know, like, initiate things without even having a conversation first, and, you know,
just let where it went.
just let it go. If I saw that, you know, they couldn't get along and stuff like that, I would just stop it. But yeah,
because I look at that thing from my own perspective, and I'm sure, like, you know, some people will relate to yourself, and, like, I've pretty much got the flip side, is that I'd watch all this stuff, and I'd get all these dark thoughts, but I would put myself in such a place of shame that it's like, why are you having these thoughts? This is wrong. This is bad. And I would not physically, but I would literally batter myself in shame, and I could never talk about this sort of stuff. Like, I could never open up to a partner and, like, say, oh, you know, do you mind if you strap me up and, like, fucking start, you know, knocking me around a little bit? It's like, to be able to open up and say that to somebody is like, holy shit, you know, they will judge me for that. They will, you know, they will have everything to say negative about me. So there was even more shame to bring on. So it's interesting to see the different dynamics about how different people handle things. And I think, you know, porn's a thing. You know, it's, once upon a time it was very difficult to get hold of porn, but, you know,
I will never forget when I actually discovered my dad's tapes at home when it was either 8 or 9 years old. This is the first time ever in my life I watched porn. That's how young I was. 8 or 9 years old. I got exposed to that.
Yeah. It was almost like that was a rite of passage itself when you found some porn. I remember walking around in my neighborhood, man, and, you know, as you are with your kids, you go exploring and do stuff, and you go and playing football. It's like a funny story that a comedian that I like told in one of his skits. It's exactly the same thing happened to us. It's like, you're there, you're on the field, you're playing football with the boys, and you're just having a good time. Bomb, someone kicks the ball and it goes into a bush, and then, you know, someone goes off into the bush. A couple of minutes passes by, just like, where's he gone? Where's the ball? And then he just comes out, proudly parading this porn mag that he's found in the bush, and that was it, game over. No one cared anymore. It's just the lads in the porn mag. It's like it was I guess it's a sense of pride almost that, you know, going through teenage years. You know, I remember going around to my best mate's house, and you know, he'd always find his dad's porn stash and stuff like that. And funnily enough, I used to go on holiday with him to Greece. His parents were like mad, like going to Greece every year. And yeah, there was just, we watched a lot of Greek porn, man. When I think we figured out later on where he got all his porn from. But yeah, it's like, you know, it's much more available now though. Hey, it's like, there's again, another comedian that I listened to, he was saying that he was on a train and like just going through England. And he was like, you know, as you do, you're on a train and you're not getting anything to do, you're listening to music, you get a little bit nosy. And he said he was sat next to this Asian kid, so he was like shuffling around trying to sit what he was watching on the, you know, doing on the thing. And he said he was just stood there, hanging onto the rail, on his phone, watching porn. And he was like, he wasn't playing with himself. He wasn't doing anything. He was just watching porn like he was watching a TV series or, you know, something on YouTube. And it was like, this is the level it's got to, man. Like, people are so obsessed with this to channel as a channel to get out any emotions that they're feeling. It's like you can filter it through porn, but it's so addictive, man. It's like I mean, on a relationship level, like it's a problem in relationships, man.
Oh, it can create massive problems.
Yeah,
massive disconnection with your partner. Like even just like the women that obviously you get exposed to in porn and stuff like that. Like obviously you see certain types that you like and all that stuff, and then like you come back to your partner or your wife and everything, and then you have watched, you know, the woman that you've idolized on the porn movie or the video and stuff like that, you know, it's not what your wife is. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, you start measuring and stuff. Like, you know, it can create like such massive problems.
Yeah. It's, you know, you see like, what is it? In a 5-minute porno, you got like a woman does about 32 different positions in 5 minutes. And then you go, excuse me, missus, can we do this, please?
And it's
unrealistic.
It's a massive problem because the thing is, like, and a lot of men, like, cause of porn, they don't realize actually that women, from their nature, and it's actually proven, like, they need at least 20 minutes actually to get turned on and be ready even for penetration alone. It takes 20 minutes for them. Like, that's how women operate. Yeah. But then we are shown, like, in the porn movies or the videos and stuff like that consistently, that they're always ready, like literally more hungry than men. That's how women are portrayed in the porn movies. Yeah.
Well, most porns, it's like, start off, woman gets down on her knees, bless her, and gives the old trumpet a polish, and then bomb, next thing you're in it.
That's it.
And that's it. It's game on. Like, yeah, it's
no matter what, they're always wet, like, you know, but it's not like that in reality, you know. And if this is what you are modeling and stuff like that, and this is, you know, your perception of even sexuality and stuff like that, or how women, you know, actually like are designed, like, you know, you're gonna be really surprised with what you're going to encounter.
There's probably a lot of disappointment, man. A lot of dissatisfaction in terms of what it can do to relationships and stuff. I mean, for you at that time, did you feel that, you know, feeling this way and using sex and porn at this sort of time in your life, did you find it hard to create like a long-lasting relationship?
Actually, I think like especially early on, like most of my relationships, they were based on sex. That's how I used to connect, like, with women in general. Like that's how I basically like trained myself for years. But because I could actually understand women in a very deep level, just because of the feminine model that I had in my life from my mom. Because she's by far like the best woman that I've ever met in my life. She was such a beautiful person, but at the same time she followed her dreams. Like, no matter what, she was always there. Even when I pushed her away, she showed me so much unconditional love. Like, you know, the feminine that I had in my life from the day I was born, it was just amazing. And because of that, I always loved women, and I always wanted to understand them.
Yeah.
Always. Like no matter what, like that was it. And like women for me, even still to this day, like it's a big part of me.
That's cool, man. Like it's
so I could connect like really easy and stuff, and like because of my empathetic nature, like I always put myself in that position to try and understand them. So that allowed me to connect. But a lot of my relationships early on, they were based on sex. Obviously I could not see it back then.
yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, I can relate to you on that one as well, man. It's, you know, we use sex as a way of connection, and then we forget to connect in other ways. And you know, it's not long before that honeymoon, like electric period sort of starts to fade, and then the sex isn't as potent and powerful as it once was. And you know, it's I guess that's where the frustration in terms of holding a relationship down is where it comes in, right?
Yeah, it is the, like, obviously the way that you connect firstly and stuff like that. But the thing is, the idea of sexuality in general that people have, and how they experience, like, also like sex through even relationships, even people that they are in marriages and very long-term relationships and stuff like that, it's not actually what you can achieve sexually, because there's so many different levels to sex. And personally for myself, with the things that I know now and the things that I'm practicing, it's a spiritual practice, but people do not view it that way. They don't view it as such. And you know, sex, there is 3 different levels of it. You have emotional, energetic, and physical. But I don't think a lot of people actually get the opportunity to experience all the 3 of them at the same time and actually connect very deeply with their partners, and even have transformative experiences through sexual intercourse. Like sex can actually be the biggest healing you can actually achieve, like the biggest healing that you can ever get through sex. And I've experienced that. You know, but it's really difficult to get to that level, because there's so many layers that you have to remove, and conditioning, and you know, like you need to do that work for that.
I think I've sort of understand, like on an experience level, like what you're saying, because I guess, like for the most part, you know, sex comes down to, first off, image. You know, you pick your sexual partner based on the way that they look. You know, you sit in the bar and you go, yeah, she looks pretty good. Let's see what she's all about. And then, you know, that's where it starts. But, you know, I've been married now for 1.5 years, and there's no chance of that happening anymore. That's not a thing that, you know, it's obviously part of being married. You take on that thing. So you basically, you've got this one image now for the rest of your life. And if that's how you're viewing sex, you're going to get quite disappointed, because that image is, you know, it may change over the years, but it's not going to be that hot, like, fire every day. You see this woman or man or whoever every single day. You know, you're not seeing them like in a bar after a few drinks and you're thinking, fuck, I could get my hand away here, you know. I'm getting quite, you know, I'm getting in the mood. You're not going to be like that.
No.
The majority of the time, you're experiencing your time with that person in a very different manner. So it's, once you remove that layer, that's for me, like, is where I've gone, wow, you know, there's something more about this. Like there's an energetic sort of connection that happens here, where it's not about, you know, bending them over and doing all like different positions and things with them just to, you know, because it's cool. It's more about the, like, whoa, this feels like fucking eclectic, man. It's a real energetic sort of sharing thing that's going on. And I don't know whether, like, it's happened for anyone listening to this podcast, but when you fucking climax together in a relationship, and it's like, it's not because of, you know, you've been doing this position for a certain time and it's, you know, it's got you turned on because that's like the porn you're watching. It's like, wow, you just literally, you're not even there. It's like you're in a completely different space, and it's just pure feeling, and then it's like bam, and then both climax at the same time. It's fucking magic.
And that's the magic that you can actually experience through intimacy and sex. Like, that's a thing, But you know, a lot of the times, especially because you mentioned like the honeymoon period and stuff like that, when the chemicals actually start dropping, like after like 2 or 3 years from the relationship and stuff, and you don't have that, and you literally have to start putting the work. This is where all the magic starts. And especially like especially with sex and intimacy, like that's the best way that you can actually maintain a great level of connection with your partner. But in order to achieve that also at the same time, there has to be a great level of safety and trust between both the male and the female, and then also not seeing as sex as something that just need to happen. Because I see a lot of couples, okay, like they say, you know, throughout the week, because life has become like so stressful, like a lot of couples have kids and all the stuff. Oh, we need to fit it in, you know, let's do a quickie, for example, or let's, you know, this morning, okay, let's do it 5 minutes and boom, we're done. But it should not be like that. Like, and for me, what I believe, like couples that should actually create a ritual behind it and actually put it on the schedule, on their calendar, even for once a week or once every fortnight, for example, and have like a big amount of time that they're gonna say, okay, it's me and you, you know, we're gonna have it like as a ceremony and spend this time together and literally like look after themselves and just connect like deeply, without distractions, without the pressure of time and anything else, just you and your partner being there to connect. Because it's not just, you know, it's not about just ejaculating or like just having the orgasm. It's basically spending the time exploring each other and actually going and connecting very deep.
You can see from that, man, though, like, you know, obviously once you develop that within a relationship, how beautiful it can become. But you can also see on the flip side that, you know, if you spend a lot of your relationship basing it upon the quantity of sex or the quality of the sex that you have, in terms of like, you know, I orgasmed X amount of times over the past X amount of days or whatever, it's like you can see how if that starts to fade over time, like 3 or 4 years, like you say, that it becomes like it has to be a ritual kind of thing. You can see how people will start to judge sex on how well their relationship is going. So if, you know, they're 4 years in and then, you know, you're not as intimate before and, you know, you're finding it harder, you can see how people will start to question whether this relationship is right for them. Because it's all based on sex, right?
It is a way to obviously to keep, you know, like to stay intimate with your partner and even deepen your relationship and stuff like that. But it's not just that. There's so many elements in a relationship that you need to be aware of and, you know, actually work hard for it. Like that's a thing. And especially for us men, I believe, like just putting ourselves in the position of actually like understanding our partner, how they feel, like actually even understanding their menstrual cycle, like it's actually something really important, because men tend to like completely detach themselves from those things. For women, oh no, you know, menstrual cycle, it's her problem and stuff like that, I shouldn't even worry about it and everything, you know. But we need to spend time understanding them in, you know, which part of the menstrual cycle, for example, she actually feels, you know, she desires us, or even actually feels like having sex, like you know, actually taking that time and actually understanding them and connecting in that level, like it goes a long way.
It creates a deeper level of connection.
100%. And you need to spend that time, like if you are not present and consistently, you know, like worrying about all these other things but not your partner, obviously like that relationship progressively is gonna start.
Well, so it's like an investment in each other, really, getting to know, you know,
input output.
The more you can get to know your partner, the more connected you're going to be able to be, because the more points of connection there are, right?
That's it.
Simple. Well, I don't know whether we got off on a tangent there, but that was a good conversation to have. Like, I think it's important, like, especially for two blokes to have, man. It's
100%
a good conversation to have. So, dude, like, you're in Australia. You know, you're finding your feet and stuff like that. You've moved on from your time in Greece, and I'm guessing that the rage and the anger is still there a bit. You know, you living with these 3 chicks, and I'm sure that's prodded the bear a little bit too. So where did the journey of healing really start to come to play for you?
So obviously, like with changing my environment completely and getting the time actually to adapt to Australia, to my relationship and everything. Like it allowed me actually to start rebuilding my life again, because I had to start from scratch. Like, it's the typical immigrant story. Like I came here, I had to start all over again and basically start working in a cafe restaurant, doing the dishes and cooking and stuff. Then I got upgraded to a waiter and stuff. So I started actually pretty fast. I went on a student visa and I started like studying massage therapy, because they didn't recognize my degree here that I did in Greece. So obviously I had to study and be eligible to work and actually keep doing the thing that I love. Yeah. So I started studying again, and I really enjoyed it, because like it gave me the opportunity to travel a lot, like through Queensland and stuff like that. Having that lifestyle as a student, but at the same time I was being a stepdad, I was being a husband, and I was trying also to adapt to all of that. Yeah. And it was such a difficult journey for me, because like I realized like actually later on that the main thing that I actually came here to Australia for was basically to discover how to be a man. Yeah. Like that was my thing, and became like really apparent to me like later on. So, and I worked really hard for it. But during that process, I started having a lot of problems like with my ex-wife, with my partner, because she suffered an identity loss, because in Greece she was like almost like a celebrity. She was on the TV, magazines and all that stuff. Wow. So she went from that to come in here and had to be just working in retail and all the stuff. Yeah. But back then I could not understand it. So she started suffering a lot from that, and she could not vocalize it to me, so I can actually understand what was happening. So we had a big problem with communication and stuff, because obviously I wasn't the best either. Yeah. I was trying to figure it out at the same time, and because we were really intense characters, and we both had a lot of anger inside of us. So that created a lot of problems. Yeah, so that relationship started turning pretty early on, like really, really toxic, and like with a lot of anger problems. And yeah, like I found myself like basically alone in a country that obviously it was the first time that I left Greece. Yeah. And I literally had to figure it out. Yeah. That's so it was hard.
Yeah, that's tough. So it's how did you end up in Perth then from Queensland?
So at some point I started my own business as a massage therapist inside a really big successful gym in Queensland, and just outside of Brisbane. And obviously like doing what I loved, and connecting with so many people, like from so many different cultures and stuff, that gave me an outlet from the problems that I had inside my house. Yeah. So I could, this is the only way that I could actually deal with what was happening. And I remember like progressively it was going, like worse and worse, to the point like that we will have these massive fights. I would start punching things, like, so my anger actually really came out again. And I would be like really reactive. And yeah, at some point I decided again, like, there's something has to change. Yeah. I had to change my life again. I had to find a solution to my problem, and through that, because some of my clients were basically they own one of the biggest Australian companies in the supplement industry. Okay. And basically one day I just grabbed the owner and offered myself. I proposed myself for a job basically, and I was lucky enough, it was almost like I manifested it. They were actually looking for someone in Perth. Oh, wow. And at that point, because Michelle, basically my ex-wife's best friend, she actually moved to Perth to work in the same industry. So I was talking with her, and I actually really liked what she was experiencing, and obviously it was something that I'm really passionate about also. And yeah, I proposed myself, and they gave me the opportunity to basically come here and build the business from scratch in WA. And yeah, like I communicated that with my ex-wife, and basically I came here to start a new life with them, though. Like that decision was based upon them, her and her daughter actually moving here also.
Oh, okay.
But that never happened. Yeah. So that's how.
Yeah, wow.
That's how I moved to Perth.
Whew. Man,
So that was another
another change, man.
another change,
Another
like
thing to deal with. Yeah.
another city, not knowing like barely anyone, and at the same time I had to figure out how to build a business from scratch, having that pressure also, having the problems also with my ex-wife, with a lot of like.
Yeah. So it's obviously a lot of back and forth for a long time. Yeah.
It was a crazy experience. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, it's really interesting. Obviously, like you from what I understand and what I know from about you, man, is that plant medicine has been a big thing for you in terms of helping you move through and channel this energy that you have into really getting a better understanding of it. So where did that journey start? Like, it's obviously it's not something you just go, let's go and try this thing, just for shits and giggles and see what we do.
Okay, so basically, like for me, Perth initiated everything. Like my whole journey of healing and really diving deep into my traumas and the PTSD and everything. Like actually really understanding myself, and it all started basically from the beginning, like with supplements. I was trying to figure out how to fix myself, especially my fight or flight response, because I was living chronically all the time, like through that.
Yeah.
And obviously having the knowledge of how the human body works and all that stuff, it was at that point that I decided, okay, I need to do something. I'm still operating through that.
Yeah.
I need to change. So I started basically like educating myself. Like I even did a sports nutrition course. I was studying every day for hours upon hours, and being in the industry also, like consistently I was getting so much knowledge about how to use like herbs and plants and all the stuff and adaptogens, and in general I was seeking everything externally.
Yeah.
So that was my initial way of actually dealing with everything. So I was trying to help basically support my nervous system through supplementation and nutrition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it definitely helped me. There was a lot of change. Obviously it allowed me to start tapping into my parasympathetic nervous system, and for the first time actually having the ability to have a proper good night's sleep. Yeah. So imagine for I spent like literally more than 15 years not even having the ability to have a proper rejuvenating actually deep sleep. I couldn't even do that, because I was abusing also at the same time like stimulants for years upon years, trying to cope with everything. And I was literally like so like exhausted from doing that.
It's a routine of many though, right?
It's yeah.
Don't sleep, stimulate. Don't sleep,
that's it.
Coffee. Don't sleep, Red Bull. Don't sleep, pre-workout. Don't
always
sleep.
Mask the problem and trying like to keep us going with using like stimulants and but people they don't realize like how damaging that is. Like you actually even think you are having a proper night's sleep, but you're not, because your cortisol levels like are so high consistently, and especially if you are someone that you are really active and you're training really hard, being on that state consistently, like you don't even have the awareness of what is happening, because we are such great adaptive mechanism, machines basically. We have the ability to adapt to such high levels of stress and everything, depending also like the individual and stuff. Like you don't even understand how bad it is.
Normalize it, right?
It becomes your normal. You actually convince yourself that okay, that's okay, like
this is how life is.
That's
now,
it. That's your baseline essentially. So until you actually like understand and trying to do something about it, and you experience how it is to recover properly, to sleep, to even like create even a proper routine throughout the day, to allow yourself to actually relax and and recollect and everything, even do breathing and everything. Like most people, they forget even to breathe. I'm pretty sure you know about it.
We were talking about that before. I have some very nice little treats in my freezer, and took too much some one night and forgot how to breathe.
but that's the thing, even with breathing, because it's so automatic and stuff like that. People don't know that you can actually use your own breath to regulate your nervous system and tap into the parasympathetic and avoid consistently like being fight or flight and pushing. there's no break at all. Like it's almost we are going consistently with 100 miles per hour without having the ability at all to essentially pause a bit. And that doesn't give you the opportunity also to understand what's happening in your life. Because when you are consistently in that state, you can't even think clearly.
Yeah.
You don't slow down to actually like feel your own body and connect with yourself and actually even ask the questions and understand, okay, like are the things that I'm doing serving me or like am I going on the right path? Like we don't do that.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, we have this intellectual ability to just accept. When there's a state like where we get to where we feel like we no longer need to challenge that. It's like, I've not slept for 5 years now. It's just whatever.
I sleep when I die.
Sleep when I die. Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
We come up with these sayings that kind of normalize what we're experiencing. So it's like, oh yeah, there we go. I can just brush that off now and just let it be a thing. Doesn't matter that I'm feeling like my bones are gonna break every time I walk. It's crazy what we do to ourselves, what we tell ourselves. Like, I was having this conversation with a client, and I'm pretty sure I've had it quite a few times recently, is that if you say some of the stuff like that you say to yourself in your mind sometimes about who you are, and then this isn't about just like about creating habits and things like this. This is about like actual language that you talk to yourself. If you wrote that shit down or recorded it and then went and repeated it to someone that you like or to to a child or someone like that, you would be horrified.
Yeah.
You would be absolutely horrified, and you would 100% say, I would never say that to anybody.
Definitely.
But there's one person in your entire life that you spend 100% of your life with. And that ain't your partner. That ain't your kids. That ain't your best friend. That ain't anybody that you'll meet. That's you. And it's like
you can't escape from you.
I know, exactly. And it's like, well, why would I not say it to somebody that I, even your own kids, like I'm a newish dad, and I spend a decent amount of time with my daughter, but when I put it in like a percentage in terms of the amount of the day, I would say it's like 15-20% at the very most. And it's like, ooh, I only see the one of the things that is so close to me 20% of the day, and I treat her like a princess, man. Yeah, I spend the whole day with myself, and I don't do it so much now, but I used to treat myself like an absolute cunt. You say horrible stuff to yourself. You walk past the mirror and you go, oh, you fat fuck, aren't you? And it's like, oh, what the hell, man?
That internal dialogue is always...
You put yourself down, and it's like, it's like, oh, I just tripped over something. There you go. I'm fucking useless. Obviously, I just proved that to myself again. It's like, what? Would you, if you saw your child trip over something, you go, oh, you're fucking useless, aren't you? That'd be a horrible thing to say, but we say it to ourselves
every day.
And this is honestly, this has got to be one of the biggest turning points in terms of hacking. I hate that word hacking, but in terms of really trying to get on top of your own mental health, is starting to change that fucking dialogue.
Yeah.
Wow. It's incredible, man. Like, even just doing simple things like taking time out, like 5 minutes in the day to just write about 3 things that you're grateful for.
Yep.
That's straight away changing that internal dialogue, looking at things that you have in your life that are beautiful. Is a beautiful way to change that internal dialogue. But we'll sit there and we're like, I don't want to fucking do that. Why would I want to sit down and write? I've got too much stuff to do. I've got this to do. I've got this to do. I don't have time. I don't have 5 minutes in the day. You'll sit there on Facebook, or we'll sit watching Netflix, or lo and behold, we'll be on the train watching porn. It's crazy. Like it's really, really crazy. But we do this to ourselves. And I guess where I'm trying to go with this like mad tangent that I've sort of gone on.
I feel you.
If you start to notice that you're starting to say these sorts of things to yourself, or maybe you've been saying these things to yourself for years,
decades.
Yeah, like for yourself, decades, man. It's like, this is an alarm bell. This really is an alarm bell to like, hey bro, or hey sister, like, this is something that we can use now to go, well, if you hear an alarm, you turn it off, or you change it, or you do something to stop that alarm. So rather than just literally, put a lid on it until the next time it goes off, figure out why the alarm is going off in the first place. And I'm guessing that's where, you started to build up this internal dialogue, and you start to realize that this is happening for you. And like, this is where, plant medicine and this education has started to transform into, well, whoa, this is a way out for me. But before we go down that little rabbit hole, though, like, how could you contextualize and explain what plant medicine really is?
Okay, so that's to actually put it in a box, it's very difficult. So plant medicine is basically nature's ultimate tools for us basically to connect with her, with Mother Earth, and receive like all this knowledge. And basically it's Earth's creation. They're called master plants, first of all. And you have like all these different plants all over the world and everything, but those are like the master plants. They are the top, basically. And they I don't know for how long they exist, but the thing is, obviously, we live in a planet that it exists for billions of years, like how crazy it is, and we're just only 200,000 as Homo sapiens. So for me, basically, the way I see them is literally the tools that the Earth provided for us to stay connected with her and basically interact with this paradise that we call that we call Earth. Like, that's what it is, and it's the tools that she gave us to stay sane, connected, and really understand in depth who we are, and always keep reminded of that, because there is no way that you will have an experience like that and you won't say straight away, oh, I'm actually disconnected from the Earth, that actually where I come from. That's the first feeling that you get. Like, this is the reconnection from the source. That's what you get. So that's one way to see them.
It's a beautiful way to put it. I like the way you've gone about it. Like, because it's obviously it's not something that's talked about in the mainstream at all. Like, it's not something that you'll ever get provided by a doctor. It's not something you'll ever get suggested by a professional. This is a journey that you've got to really adapt to, understand first of all, and you don't really have to, but it's good to get some form of understanding first. You can't just jump into this sort of stuff. But at the same time, this has got to be a journey that you've got to be wanting to go for on yourself, because there's from going on a couple of journeys myself, there's a lot of stuff that you can't explain.
Yes.
Like, there really is a lot of stuff that science and intellectual behavior does not explain when you're in this state. And it's definitely not for everybody. This is something that you have to make a conscious choice that you want to go and try this sort of thing, and most importantly, be in a safe environment to do it. Like, that's imperative from what I've learned. You see people going on trips and things and going crazies because this needs to be done in a place where someone is looking after you spiritually, and looking after the energy that's moving around within not just the space that you're in, but the space that other people share with you too.
100%. Setting an intention are the most important things that you literally have to consider when you decide to go to explore that path. No matter what you use, what tool you use, setting and your own intention is the most important thing. Like, this is not something that you should use recreationally just to party and have fun and all that stuff, because again, you're escaping. You're using it as an escaping mechanism and a coping mechanism to not deal with yourself. But essentially, those are the tools that we have received from the Earth to basically do that. There's no way that you will actually have an experience like that and you won't face yourself. And because you actually mentioned, like, because we're talking about what they are essentially, I will share with you like one of the visions that I had in one of my ceremony, like with the beautiful medicine of ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So this really vivid vision of the tree first of all, and I saw the tree, the roots going like really deeply into the earth and absorbing all the information from the core of the earth, like everything around it and stuff like that. Like, and those are trees that they, exist for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So, and then it showed me the information that carries from the sky, from the rain and everything. So everything that comes, everything that comes in touch with the leaves, essentially like absorbs like that level of information. The animals that come, connect with the leaves and everything, from jaguars and everything. That's why a jaguar is one of the most common visions that you will see in an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
So it showed me like in this like really vivid like visual, like why you get bombarded with such great level of information, because the information that they carry, like it's just unlimited almost.
Yeah.
So you receive all the information from the core of the earth to the sky, like the rain, the animals, like everything, the humans, like everything that comes in touch with that plant, essentially you absorb it.
Yeah.
It becomes you. That's that's how crazy it is. But we never consider that. Like we literally objectify everything. Like we see plants as literally objects. We don't even consider that they're actually alive. That they actually have their own like vibration and intelligence and everything. We see everything as literally dead.
Yeah.
And that's a massive problem.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what did they say about like, people that are botanists and not necessarily as more as a hobby, like people that grow plants and things like that. The more you talk to your plants, the more you show them love and have communication with them, the more vibrant they are, the more they grow.
And they flourish.
They flare up, and it's. People think it's crazy, but it's literally not, man. Like, funnily enough, like. I knew that, but I haven't been doing it. Like I've been doing it, like I don't know whether you saw outside in the kitchen there, the big green plant that's intertwined. I talk to that thing all the time. I don't know why, I just talk to it. But I got my San Pedro cactus out in my garden. I've never spoken to it before. I've never said anything to it. And Joel said, like, I took him out to show it, and I said him, he's like, oh, do you talk to it a lot? And I was like, no. And he's like, bro, you need to talk to that thing.
You really need to connect with it, and you will see all of a sudden it will start growing like faster.
I shit you not, that was 2 weeks ago almost that Joel was here, and I've been every now and again I'll go outside. It still feels a little odd, but go outside and tell it I love it and give it a stroke and just talk to it for a little bit. Man, it has gone from being a very pale green to like the head of it has gone really dark, thick green. I'm like, man,
that's the power of intention. Like that's it. And essentially, like everything is energy. So so like it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
It makes sense.
And it's like even the research that's coming out now about like there's a guy, I think he was Japanese, I can't remember his name, but he got killed over in China or something like that he proved that water has its own intelligence.
Yep.
That is fucking cool.
We are 70% of it.
Yeah.
Like I literally wake up every morning and I go to my water filter. I bless it. Like literally I put all the love and share my gratitude for literally giving life to everything essentially. Like you cannot live without water. Yeah. And that's the first thing that I do when I wake up, and then I consume a massive cup of water. Yeah. Like it's so important. And you actually, when you connect so deeply with your water, your food and everything, you actually feel the impact that actually it has inside of you. You notice it. It makes massive difference.
Well, I think something that I've learned from this understanding, about water is that, okay, the principle that we just spoke about, it's a little far-fetched for people to go like, okay, water's got consciousness. Are you freaking kidding me now? Where have you two gone to? And it's like, okay, well, look at it this way. Like you said, right? We're 70% water. And we know from science that the moon can move a fucking ocean. You don't think that the moon might have some effect on that 70% of us? And it's like, maybe this astrology stuff that people are talking about has got a little bit of sense to it. Maybe this plant sort of stuff, this plant medicine's got a little bit of sense to it. You can start to see the dots connect.
Yep.
And it's like, once you see that, it gives you the freedom to drop your guard a little bit and drop the intense walls that you put up against this. I wouldn't say hate, but it's like this sort of, oh no, that's for fucking drug addicts, or that's for fucking crazies, or hippies or whatever.
That's what conditioning does, like, unfortunately. But like, because you actually mentioned it, one of the biggest benefits that you will ever get from actually like consuming, like master plans and stuff, it's basically that it actually allows you to be open to new ideas. You remove most of the conditioning that you actually have and the layers of conditioning, and you are open to new things. Essentially, it makes your brain again childlike, and that's the one of the most powerful things that you can actually receive. Having the ability again to be open to any possibility, to anything new, because we forget to do that. Like, we are so conditioned, and we carry so much like things like programs in our head that they're not even ours.
Yeah.
And like, we cannot even challenge them at all. So it gives you that opportunity for the first time to actually see things from a different perspective and shift your consciousness.
I mean, I think that's an important thing to talk about is obviously with any experiences that you share or, that I'll share, is that everyone's experience is completely individual. It's like, just because Theo has, this experience with, with what he's been through, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the same thing. You might have something remotely similar, but it's going to be completely different. Like, I think where this ties in for me in terms of like not necessarily the hate, but the pushing away from people is like my mum and my grandma, like, I'm the rebel of my family. Like, everybody's is the straight and narrow.
I'm glad you are.
Yeah. Nobody nobody really does anything out of the, the boundaries and constructs of society kind of thing. And it's like when I told my mum, this is, hey mum, for my bachelor party, I'm going to go into a teepee in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of friends, and we're going to get high on this this cactus. And she's just, don't do that. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, because that's just bad. And I'm like, why is it bad? And she just, everything is just like, it's either law-based or it's like fear-based or everything. And I'm going to let mum, I really appreciate your opinion, but this is something I've really wanted to do, and I'm going on this journey. And she's like, yeah, okay, and I respect your decision as an adult, as it goes. And I guess where the real change came into play was through one of the experiences I had. We're coming towards the end of the night, and they're starting to bring us out of the ceremony with food. That's how they do it. Like, and we get a little cup of fruit to start. So I have this fruit, and my fucking god, this fruit must have been made by angels. It tasted so good. But from that moment, I remember I was sat outside of the teepee, and one of the guys, I was just having a moment by myself, and they brought me out a cup of this fruit, and I started eating this fruit. And I don't know whether it was the fruit or what, but I just disappeared. Like, the world disappeared around me. There was I was sat in a very wooded area. There was no trees. There was nothing. There was just colour. That was it. It was just pure colour. And I was just looking around, and I was like, what in the flying fuck is happening? And it was just this green, and it was this intense green colour. So I'm just like, my rational mind is trying to figure this out, and it's having no success whatsoever. So I was just like, all right, just switch you off for a moment and just sit here and just appreciate it. And whether this is true or not, I really don't know, but I feel like it was my granddad trying to talk to me. And so I just started asking question after question after question after question. And all of a sudden, I'm bursting in tears. I've got snot dripping from my nose. I'm fucking ugly crying. Like, I'm howling to the point where I've come out of it, and I realize there's people around, like, watching me just to make sure I'm okay. And I'm like, wow, that was a mad experience. So everyone's come over from England for my wedding, so it's like the next day I come back home and like my mum's there. She's like, "Oh, how was it?" And I sat her down and I took her to one side and said, "Look, I've got something I need to tell you." So I told her this message from my granddad to her. Burst out crying. I absolutely burst out crying. It would just hit her so hard, and I was like, "That wasn't me. That wasn't from me that I got that message." And then my grandma was here as well, she was married to him for 50 odd years, man. And told her as well, and she's like Alzheimer's, man. She's in and out of consciousness, like of what reality is all the time, and she bursts out crying, and it's like she's transformed like back to when he was alive, man. It's like, how can you rationalize that as real thing and not take into context of the emotional effect it's had on two people that weren't even there? That for me is like, that was the thing, is like, this is fucking real. This isn't just, I've had something and then I've gone, it's done whatever it's done and it's made me trip out my mind. This is like, yeah, it can't be explained by the rational mind. Let's put it out.
Nah. And that was such a powerful experience for you. Like,
it's life changing. Absolutely life changing.
That's the beauty of those medicines. Like, that's it. Again, I'm not saying it's for everyone or like, but having my own experience also, because I had like quite a few. I truly believe it's that way to go forward. That's it, because the way our life has become, and the structure that we have in society and everything, pushing consistently for growth and power, and not caring about anything around us, being so disconnected, and obviously everything is from the egoic mind. This is the only way that we can actually reconnect with our essence, with what truly matters, and our ancestors also, in the way we used to live. Like, that's the thing. There's no other way, because the level of conditioning that we receive, it's so strong. It's so difficult to change your brain, and that gives you the opportunity to finally do it. No matter how old you are, no matter how like what has happened in your life, no matter what your experiences are, like, it doesn't care about it. But it will actually allow you to get there.
And I think like I had a lot of experiences that night, man. Like, a lot of different things I saw, a lot of different conversations I had. Like, some of it really funny, some of it really emotional, some of it really like, yeah, okay, I'm tripping balls this time. This is crazy. But it's like, one thing I took from it, man, that was 2 years ago, almost, maybe longer. But it changed my life in such a way that I found a sense of peace that I don't think I would have ever found. Like, it gave me not just a connection with the people that I was there with, and the new people that I'd met that were helping us, channel this energy in the right way, but it gave me a realization that, first off, everything is fucking connected. Like, I saw strings of light coming off my hands that were connected to the tree leaves, and I was like, wow, and it's like spider's web and colours shooting up and down, and yeah, I could rationalise that and say I'm tripping balls, but that feeling didn't disappear. It's like the level of connectivity that I still have with plants and animals, it's not there all the time.
No.
But it's like, sometimes I'll go to stroke my dog and it will just look at me and I'll look at him and it will just be like, yeah.
You have the ability to go back to that, even when you forget it, at least, because you've seen it, you've seen how it is, you've seen that unity, that we are all here together.
My dog literally looks at me and I look at him and he feels like, I fucking know you, brother.
I got you, bro.
Yeah, he's like, I got you, bro. Don't worry, I'm here to help you. And it's like, dude, I will look after you and I'll take care of you as much as you will look after. And it's weird. It's weird.
It's so beautiful, though.
Then the same thing happens with, like, you walk past a plant and, like, just before that experience, I'd started going running a lot around this neighborhood here, and there's a part where there's a lot of trees on my left-hand side, and all of a sudden, this might sound like I'm fucking crazy, but I don't care, is after this experience, every time I've run past this place, my whole entire left side of my body, just all the hairs stand up on end. I get tingling all over my body, and I'm just like, this is madness. And you just look at the plants, and they just seem like, obviously they're alive, but they look and they feel alive. Like you can feel the energy coming off them. And all of a sudden, this is the weird part, is I started to notice every time I went under a tree, there was a little bit of a branch that hung down as if it wanted high-fiving. So every time I go running past this fucking trees, I just, bam, high fives. How you going, bro? But I don't know what it is, man. I feel like I sound crazy, but it does not feel crazy. It feels like, it feels like, literally like you said, you connected to the earth in a new way. You connected to animals and plants in a completely different way. In a way that you can start to understand why real young children that don't have any of these mental constructs and boundaries that are created by society, they have. Like, you see kids talking to trees, plants, and dogs, and like, I look at my little girl, she's a year and a half old, and she's best friends with the dog. It looks like they have like little secret conversations together. But you look at that and you go, oh, that's cute. She's having a little conversation. She's like, she probably is having like some form of transformative like energy understanding between each other. And it's
because kids are not corrupted yet. That's a thing. They're connected with their essence. Like they operate from that until like they get bombarded with all the things that adults have prepared for them, and all of a sudden you forget who you are. That's it. And you start creating like your ego identity, and after that it's
but one of the best parts that I took from my journeys that I've had so far is that you're in this space, and yes, you're influenced a little bit by this plant that you've taken. Like another one that I did was the cacao ceremony a few weeks ago. But while you're there and you're in this space, this feeling of relaxation and no stress just seems to come over your body. And things like business, money, all these things that we stress about in daily life, they don't exist. And it's like, well, why is this only, why am I only like being able to find this sense of relaxation now? Like, why is it that we as people, we bring around this stress and pain and torment? Like, we're the ones that do it to ourselves. It isn't, we can blame society, but society is people. And we are part of that society, so we therefore are doing it to ourselves. We create this
collective.
Construct. Yeah, but this sense of freedom, man, it was like, it really, like, I can understand now from your perspective on how you've gone from like anger and rage, and you found this place to live and to use plant medicine. It's brought you a sense of peace.
Oh, and it brought me way more than that. but the thing is also, like, as a kid, the way I grew up in Greece, I was so disconnected from the earth and nature. Like, that's how I grew up. And like, we never lived like the way we live like the past probably, say, 2,000, 3,000 years. Like before, you didn't wear shoes. You were always stepping on the earth. You were always connected with the earth. You were literally connected with the plants, with the animals, like with everything, and with each other. Like there was that sense of unity consistently. We were one with everything. But as soon as civilization like started, and especially men, all of a sudden they started like owning a piece of land, a woman, an animal, a crop. That started creating the separation, and progressively we started like, going into the path that we are now. And for me, especially because I never experienced that connection with the earth and then that unification, like I never had that, never. I actually got it like when I was literally like, probably like 2.5, 3 years ago, for the first time in my life, I actually understood what that is, being connected with the earth, where you live, like the actual, like that living planet that we are part of. I never had that, and I've just experienced it. So imagine, like, it's not just like okay, dealing with my internal dialogues and the trauma and the anger and all the stuff, and having that sense of peace, and even like, you know, what a lot of people call the ego death, which for me is mostly becoming aware of the ego and that you are not that. That's how I see it. But you know, it gave me so much more. And every time that I would visit it again, I would literally like go deeper and deeper into my understanding and awareness of different things.
Well, just before we get onto the like how like what the impact it sort of did have, like I think it's important to say, like, obviously, you know, we're talking about things here that are a little bit out of context of normality, but you can test this in real life. Like it's not easy, it's not hard to go and test this. Like, one of the best things that you can do to go and test this out is either one of two things: go to the beach, take your shoes off; go into the woods, take your shoes off, and just stand there. And stand there for 10, 15, 20 minutes until you start to feel a little bit relaxed and at peace. Tell me, with that experience, you don't feel a little bit happier, a little bit calmer, and a little bit more peaceful. That's all you are doing. Is literally that's the easiest way to prove this, right?
Yep, 100%, 100%. And we used to be like that every day, 24 hours. That's how we used to live. But now we literally have to escape just to go and get a glimpse of that, so it can actually bring us back to equilibrium. But people choose a lot of the times to not even do that. They don't give themselves the opportunity to go there. Like it's really crazy. But there's no way you're going to have an experience like the ones that we're describing, and you're not gonna seek that consistently. Like literally just going, you know, even by yourself, or if you have a family, take your family and just go in nature and connect with everyone, with everything around you. It's such a...
You're gonna feel better.
100%, 100%. Until you come back.
So what, like, to sort of like wrap these things up now and start to get a real understanding of this, like, how did this plant medicine, like, if you to put it into a way that people can understand, like, what sort of changes this gave you and how your life has changed from, you know, experiencing this plant medicine to being this angry man, like full of anger and rage, to now being you, man. Like, I've known you for 5 years, and I've never seen you angry. You're one of the most peaceful, loving bros I've ever seen in my life, man. It's beautiful to be around. Like, how does that feel now? Like, not, you know, being able to, I'm not saying that you're never angry, but to be able to have that understanding of what this anger and rage was.
Okay, the massive, as you can understand, for me, it's something like, you know, I went from one extreme to the other. But the most important thing for me is actually understanding how to express my anger in healthy ways, without actually being reactive and just like expressing anger like in such unhealthy ways and, you know, full of rage and like all those things, but actually having healthy ways to release it when I have it, because it doesn't actually, like, you know, come often, and I'm not disconnected from it. Like, it's probably the emotion that I'm most connected with. But actually understanding in depth, you know, how to shift it, how to release it, and not suppress it, first of all, but allow myself to feel it, and having, like, you know, obviously like an avenue to express it. Like, that's a big thing. And like, just understanding my mind, it was the most important thing. Like, literally understanding like the trauma that I carried from the accident and all the other experiences, and the imprint in my nervous system that I had, that I could not like literally like understand or shift or anything. But having that knowledge, and through those experiences and that connection with the plant medicine, actually having the ability to stay connected, first of all, with myself and my body, because that's a big problem for us men. Like, we always stay in our mind and we cannot like drop into our bodies. So that showed me how that looks also. And actually being connected with myself in such a deep level, and allowing myself to feel the anger, the sadness, you know, anything that comes up, like being that connected consistently, it was the game changer for me. So that allows me always to, you know, even when I feel any negative emotion and stuff, I have the ability, okay, I recognize it first of all, and then, allow myself, I give a bit of time before I actually speak with, my relationship or my friends or anyone that I have close. So I don't have any outbursts anymore. I don't react to things. I have the ability to stay calm and collective and just deal with my emotion and then connect and express it first of all, because you need to express it.
Yeah.
We as men, we need to express how we feel.
I think that's beautiful, man. It's to be able to come from that space to not push the anger away and completely, deny it any sort of existence in your life, because it's what a lot of people do. It's you find an emotion that's too overbearing, so you end up bottling it up, and it's like, okay, well, it's bottled now. I don't deal with it as often as I used to. But when it fucking pops, it pops, and it pops in one of the worst ways, But to a place where it's like you've almost become friends with anger.
Yep.
You've almost made you're connecting to it with love and compassion.
The way I see it is literally as such, actually creating an intimate relationship with your emotions. All of them, your anger, your sadness, everything. Actually becoming intimate with them and not trying to suppress them, avoid them or anything else. Because when you actually learn how to be intimate and actually love every part of you, because they are essentially part of us, there's no way that you will actually act in any negative way or express unhealthy. It's so good. It takes a lot of work, obviously, and stuff, but I found for myself, working with the plant medicine, it gave me the opportunity for the first time to actually accept that part of myself, accept those emotions, actually love them, sit with them. It's so beautiful. It's actually one of the most beautiful processes and challenging at the same time that you can go through.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. And look, dude, you've had some massive shifts in your life, and you've educated me there's no tomorrow today. A lot of the stuff is I've been sort of aware of, but the most impactful thing that I can see is that the like I said, man, the love and compassion that you now have with anger. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that will, they'll listen to this and they'll identify, as I've got rage from PTSD and I've got anger from many other different things. Yep. And it's it shows that, you can have a way out of that. You just have to open that mind up a little bit to accept that that there is information out there that is a little bit left of field. But what matters more, the fact that it's left of field or the fact that you can fall in love with being able to express your emotions? It's a no-brainer.
100%.
It's an absolute no-brainer, man. It's been so friggin' cool talking to you today. It's I'm pretty sure now we're beating Joel. Sorry, Joel. on the old length. But yeah, bro, it's this definitely has to have a part 2, man. We've got to continue this, man. It's such a beautiful conversation. Whether we can create something that we can consistently talk to people and we can share a message on a consistent basis, man. Yep. We'll figure something out anyway. But dude, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Having you here in my home as well, man. It's beautiful to see you as always, dude. So thank you.
Thank you, brother, for giving me the opportunity to express myself, and I send all the love to everyone, because obviously we're going through, as a collective, through a lot of adversity and difficulties at that point. So I just want to share my love for everyone.
That's beautiful, man.
And I wish the best.
That's beautiful, dude. Obviously, if there's anybody that wants to reach out to you, you said we've got your Instagram here. It's at iam.theodorus. That's on Instagram.
Yep.
Just send him a message there, and we're more than happy to answer any questions you may have, or if you just want to reach out and have a good old yarn like we have today.
That's it.
All right, man. Thanks so much, brother. It's been a pleasure, and
Thank you,
we'll
brother.
definitely do this again soon.
Thank you,
bro.
brother.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Naked Reality, and a massive show of gratitude to our guests who got naked about their mental health stories today in the studio with us. Also, a big thanks to our sponsor here for 2020 and 2021, getsome.com.au, providing some amazing supplements from Origin Labs all the way in the USA and supporting our military veterans. Stay tuned for this important announcement.
For anyone listening that's in need of any support for any reasons for their mental health, please contact Beyond Blue on 1300 224636, or for the ages of 12 and 25 years old, eHeadspaces at 1-800 650 890, or for the ages of 5 to 25, Kids Helpline on 1-800-55-1800, or if you're in need of any immediate support, please contact Lifeline on 131114, and they're available 24/7 for those in Australia. If you are looking for any more numbers, if you can visit healthdirect.gov.au/mental health lines. There's a lot of numbers there for specific topics. And also on our website is ONU, that's o-nu.com.au/mental-health-support-lines. We have a list of phone numbers and contact details for many of the main areas around the world. If you are in need of any support, or you do know someone that this would benefit, please share this around to anyone you think may need it. Thank you.